Stop me if you've heard this one. Eric Weiss, David Kotkin, and Christopher Sarantakos go into a bar. Ringing a bell? If not, let me try this. Harry Houdini, David Copperfield, and Criss Angel walk into a bar. Do any of those names ring a bell? If you didn't recognize the first one, but you recognize the second set of names, you've witnessed the power of personal branding. Hello and welcome. I am Jonathan Pritchard from iCanReadMinds.com. In case you're new here, hello, welcome, great to see you. My background is a world touring performer, still doing some of that, and now I'm more of a consultant working with world-class companies like BP, State Farm, United Airlines, to help them leverage the power of applied psychology to do things that look impossible. And this channel is where I share all of that stuff with you. In this video, I want to talk about the power of personal branding, and I figured there's a lot that we can learn from magicians. Me being one, I've seen it firsthand. In fact, I had the honor of working with Criss Angel for about a week on a TV project, got flown out, put up at the Luxor, and had a great time. But I don't want to talk about that story. I want to focus on Houdini as an example of what you can look to if you are thinking about your own personal brand. And if you haven't thought about your own personal brand, I would highly suggest that you spend some time really thinking through that, because a personal brand is the ability to set the framework for how other people talk about you when you're not in the room. And if that's not a superpower, I don't know what is. So to dig in, let's look at Harry Houdini. So yes, he was born Eric Weiss, then changed his name to Houdini, and the Houdini that you know of the Jailbreaker is actually Houdini version 2.0. Houdini 1.0 was a magician that focused on playing cards. He even has promo posters called the King of Cards, and he was not successful doing that. In fact, he was working at a sideshow, and in addition to being the magician, he was also the wild man act and a whole bunch of other stuff, and he was barely making ends meet. In fact, if you've seen the movie Mentalist that just came out not too long ago, if you've seen that movie, you know exactly what Houdini was doing. And it wasn't until 1899 when a guy by the name of Martin Beck saw Houdini that Houdini's career actually just took off, because Martin Beck owned a whole run of theaters and performing venues, and he talked with Houdini and said, you know, if you dropped everything else that you're doing and just focus on the escapes, I'll book you across the world. And in the span of a couple of months, he made good on his promise. Houdini went from barely making ends meet to focusing on his niche to playing the largest stages and then becoming a multi-international superstar. And that's a really, really good lesson. The first one being find your niche. Find what specifically you are good at and then focus just on that. The second detail is that not even Houdini was able to figure out what his niche was. Really, he was doing a little bit of everything, and it took somebody from the outside to say, you know what, drop everything else, focus on this one thing. So having a coach, having a mentor, somebody who knows your industry inside and out, who can give you valuable information about what's working for you and what's not working for you, can shave a lot of time off your career. And if you want to know more about that topic, go ahead and check out that link right there. And the third detail is that you've got to create a strong image. You've really got to craft that identity of who you are and who you aren't. The three people that I mentioned up front, Eric Weiss, David Kotkin, Christopher Sarantakos, they could be anybody, and they were. And then they honed their image. They made it very, very clear. Houdini, Jailbreaker. David Copperfield, illusions and storytelling and emotional impact. Criss Angel, heavy rock and roll and wrestling, right? That's kind of the vibe that he started with. So being able to craft a very strong imprint that lands quickly and strongly is absolutely essential. The fourth detail is to hone your craft. As Steve Martin said, be so good that they can't ignore you. You can't go halfway into your skill set. The best brand is to be great at what you do, and then everything else supports that. So if you want to think about your personal brand, be the best you that you could be, whatever that's going to mean for you. And number 5 is promote yourself. Let people know how you make the world a better place. Houdini had absolutely no problems telling the world how amazing he was. David Copperfield, put his name as big as you possibly can. Criss Angel, best in the world. And they could all back it up. So you can't be shy about telling the world who you are, because you could help people. And if you don't tell them that you could help them, that's the same as making sure they can't get help. So to me, I've always seen it as a moral imperative to tell the world about how you can help them and what you can do to make it a better place. If you feel bad about sharing the message about how you help the world be a better place, get over it. So that's a quick look into personal branding. And if you haven't thought about personal branding, realize that you are letting other people dictate what the story is about you when you leave the room. And I can go into more detail about how to craft that message and how to frame your skill set, how to leave people with the right words to talk about you when you're not there. There's a whole art and science that goes into how to craft your personal brand. So this is more about asking you to please consider focusing on being intentional with building your own personal brand. And if you'd like to know about how I went about creating my own character, Johnny Zavant, I figured all the other magicians through history took stage names, so I created one myself. You don't have to create a stage name, but it can be fun. Let me know in the comments if you'd like to see that. And if you enjoyed this, go ahead, hit that like button as the easiest, best thing that you can do to tell YouTube that, other people should see this as well. And in the meantime, go ahead and check out this video and then subscribe to the channel if you want to see more stuff like this and be notified when I release it. And in the meantime, as always, remember, if you can change your mind, you can change your life.